This video is brought to you by America First Insight. Help support the growing conservative movement by becoming a member today. And if you want to support this channel, you can also use the code REAL when becoming a member. Thank you and enjoy the video. As most of you probably know, last night there were special local elections across the board in places like Georgia, Florida, New Mexico, and like every other time we talked about these type of races in the last couple of years, it was, on paper at least, a very good night for Democrats. And everybody's running with it. Everybody's making a big deal about it. Just look at this headline from NBC News. Democrats win Miami mayor's race for the first time in almost 30 years. Yeah, this is the type of narrative that's been built in the last couple of hours because last night, yeah, it was a bad night for the GOP. And I should be clear about that. Even though I will explain why these results, they don't really matter in the long run, it was still a bad night. Let's be clear about that because some people are going to think, well, you're coping and you're making excuses. No, not really. Like, yeah, last night, Republicans did awful. They underperformed across the board. That's not good. And Republicans, they have to deal with that soon. They have to deal with that ASAP because guess what? We are less than 12 months away from the midterms. And if the GOP, if they don't wake up now and realize they have serious issues, yeah, they're going to probably get crushed next year. But my goodness, the narratives that's been built the last couple of hours, it's been insane. It's been ludicrous. It's just been batshit crazy. Because based on what some people are saying, it sounds like Democrats, they're going to win every single House seat next year. They're going to flip the Senate. They're going to flip every governor race. Everything's going to go Democrat next year. That's how bad of a night people are claiming last night was for the GOP. And yeah, it was not a good night for the GOP. And like NBC News reports, it is technically true that this is the first time in almost 30 years that the Democrats won the mayor race in Miami. That is 100% true. And they won it by a pretty decent margin. They won it by roughly 19 points. And that's where everyone began to panic. And that's when everyone began to say it's all over for next year. And there are other results as well that weren't that good either. Like in Iowa, you had a special election that was a lot closer than it should have been. It was still a big victory, but it is underperformance. Same thing in Georgia. Hell, this special election, it was a flip. It was that bad of a night where we had a couple special elections that were in deep red seats that did go Democrat. Florida, they had closer races than expected. So across the board, yeah, it was a bad night for the GOP on paper. If you look at nothing else, you ignore everything else going on, yeah, it was, relatively speaking, a piss poor performance by the Republican Party. But the narratives surrounding what happened last night about how it's going to impact next year, I'm sorry, this is getting kind of ridiculous. It seems like every 2 weeks, we have to make the same argument over and over again that the Republican Party, they're doomed because they lost the mayor election in Miami. Just look at this right here. Look at this right here. Rich Bears, who again I respect, but last night he went off the rails. I mean, he's making a big deal with these special elections, and yeah, the Iowa results, it was roughly an 11-point shift towards the Democrats. Which, yeah, if that happens nationwide, you're talking about what, a D+9 electorate? Yeah, that's not good. But at the same time, we have to add some context to these results. Again, I'm not defending what happened. It's not good. The Republicans, they always shit the bed in these type of elections. They always do awful in special elections and off-year elections. Yeah, that's true. But seriously, the Senate's now on the line because they underperformed in a deep red seat in Iowa. Really? And he kept going on, and he said other stuff about, plenty of Republicans voted in Miami. It was awful. And yeah, it was one of those things where this crowd of people, they're making the argument that last night proved the GOP is dead. They're going to get crushed next year. There's nothing they can do. And yeah, and like everybody else out of touch for saying the Republicans, they still have a chance next year, which we'll get to that in a second. But let's start with Miami, because that's the big story of the night. Everybody's losing it over this one race, one mayor election. It caused everybody to lose their damn minds over one mayor race. Now, it is true that, yes, this is technically the first time in over 30 years that Democrats, they won the mayor race in Miami. And again, they won it by a big margin. They won it by 19 points, which is not good. But let's add some context here, because some people, I'm not going to say who, but some people, they are kind of misleading people about the state of this race. For starters, this is not Miami-Dade. This is not the whole county. This is just the city of Miami. And the city of Miami did not vote Republican. Even in 2024, Trump lost Miami. That's a fact. He lost it by under a point. Now, yes, an 18-point shift, that's not good. That is not a good showing whatsoever. Like, that's true. But people are making it sound like this was a Republican stronghold. No, it's far from it. The county, sure, Miami-Dade is a Republican area now, we get that. With the city of Miami, yes, it's getting more Republican, obviously. It went from Clinton plus 40 to Harris plus 1. So yes, it's getting more Republican, that's true. But it still voted Democrat. So already, people are lying about that. They're saying this area voted Republican. No, it didn't. And on top of that, the results last night, even though they were piss poor for the GOP, funny enough, it's still slightly better than they're showing in 2020 for president. Trump lost it by 19. They lost it by roughly 19 as well. It's significantly better than 2016, which would tell you everything. The fact that last night was kind of the worst case scenario, DEFCON 1, and you're still doing better than pre-2024 in places like Miami. I'm not saying it's good, but that should tell you that there is a kind of a set floor. Even in a bad showing, Republicans are still doing better than they were in the seat compared to just 5 years ago. So already, these people, they're kind of lying about Miami. This is not a Republican stronghold. It was a Democrat stronghold for years. It's gotten more Republican, but it still voted for Harris by a point. Okay, so that's first thing. Secondly, look at the turnout. Just look at this. 37,000 people voted, okay? 37,000. That's it. In 2024, you know how many people voted? Just under 150,000 people. Yeah. So you're talking about a drop-off in turnout of what? 70%? And we're supposed to claim that this electorate's proof that Democrats are going to win next year? Yeah, this proves that Democrats, they have won the very high propensity voter. They've won the vote that votes in every election. And that's an issue, because with lower turnout like what happened last night, yeah, Democrats, they tend to overperform across the board because they're the party of high propensity voters. Republicans, meanwhile, they're the party of low propensity. These people, they might, in a best case scenario, might vote in a presidential election. And that might be pushing it. These voters, they never vote in midterms. They might vote a presidential year. And most of the time, they don't even consider voting for mayor. So do the math. Turnout was a huge problem. I'm not denying the idea that, yeah, it's a bigger problem than it should be. I'm not denying that. Republicans, they cannot be doing this piss poor with getting their voters out to vote, because you cannot see a drop off of 70%. You just can't and expect to win. But do you think that's going to happen next year? Honestly, Trump's campaign is already planning for next year to be basically a presidential style year in terms of turnout. That's what they're banking on. So you're talking about a 70-point gap between what happened in 2024 and 2025. So already, you can't compare the two. And there's also a local election. You cannot compare that as well. It's a stupid comparison to make. And the electorate objectively was far more Democrat than it was in 2024, and much more Democrat than it will be probably next year. Because this year, this was the Democrat best case scenario. Let's cut the crap. Trump's approval is below water. This should be the Democrats' best elections. This should be their best showings right now. And they're doing very good. But a large chunk of that is because turnout sucks on the Republican side. They're not getting their voters out to vote. They're just not. And for those that are saying, well, independents voted for Democrats, yeah, and that's an issue as well. But when you have such piss poor turnout, like we did in Miami, like we did in Iowa, in Georgia, when you see stuff like this, is that shift with independents? Is that really Trump voters all bailing on the GOP and voting Democrat? Or, and this is the more likely scenario, these independents that are voting, they lean heavy to the left. They already do. They already vote Democrat in the first place. And just like the Democrat Party, they're high propensity voters. Maybe that's what's happening here. Does that mean we have no problem? No. But it does illustrate the point that, hey, maybe Republicans, these results, they're not good for them, but they're not in as bad of a situation as some may claim. Because these voters, they have voted every election. Every single election, they're going to vote in no matter what. So that's kind of the Democrat ceiling in these areas, which, funny enough, is worse than 2020. But either way, you get the point that in Miami, we're talking about a completely different electorate. We're talking about a different race, low turnout, more Democrat friendly than even next year's going to be. And yeah, they won by 19. And that's already not good, but it's misleading. But the point that everyone's really pushing, it's not really the margin of victory, but the idea that this is the first Democrat in 30 years to be the mayor of Miami, which technically that's true, but there are a bunch of catches to this idea that, well, this is the first Democrat mayor in a long time. Okay, on paper, yeah, that's technically true, but let's just take a look at the recent mayors of Miami, these truly conservative Republicans. Let's go look at this. 2021, Francis Suarez, he won. Everybody knows before this year, he was a never Trump liberal Republican. He didn't even vote for DeSantis back in 2018. He was pro Andrew Gillum. He was a never Trumper. He's liberal on most issues. And this is the Republican candidate. Okay? Democrats, meanwhile, they ran nobody. They ran nobody of note. Plus, Suarez has name recognition. His father was the mayor, I believe, for a while in the 90s. So already, you can tell that, oh, wait, this is not very much a Republican landslide or whatever. On paper it is, I guess. But you're going to get a no-named person, and you're the incumbent mayor, and you're like a liberal on most issues. 2017, same thing happened. Francis Suarez ran against nobody. He was a popular city commissioner. He had the name recognition because his last name, and he ran against no serious candidates at all. 2013, this guy right here ran against nobody. And yes, he was technically a Republican, but yet again, he wasn't a big fan of Trump. And on most issues, he was liberal. On most issues, he was to the left. So just keep going. 2009, this was a slightly competitive race. Republicans won a landslide because turnout sucked and Obama was not popular at this point. And yeah, Republicans, they did win this race by a big margin. But again, this guy, he's barely Republican. Same thing with Suarez. Suarez now is more pro-Trump, but this guy was never really that pro-Trump in the first place. I don't think he ever did support him ever. So just keep going. And this is the funniest example. In 2005, this guy, Manny Diaz, won re-election. And yes, he was Republican. But here's the problem with calling this guy Republican. He was maybe 30 years ago. Even then, he was far to the left on most issues. And this guy was also the chair of the Democrat Party of Florida for a couple of years. Yeah, These are the Republicans that were the mayors of Miami for the last 30 years. A Democrat, somebody that's a liberal, conservative Republican, didn't like Trump, and then eventually never Trumper, that didn't even like Ron DeSantis until it became politically convenient. Yeah, those are the conservative mayors. These are your options. Yeah, that's a very conservative city. Really? These people are not Republicans. They're Republicans in name only. And funny that these same people that call anybody a rhino, they never once bring up the fact that these Republicans, they're rhinos. Not a single one of them. Funny how that works. And most of these races, they were uncontested anyways. Nobody ran. The closest race, or I should say the most competitive race before this year, was 2009. And Republicans won by 50. And this was, funny enough, raw vote-wise, more votes than what we saw last night. This was the highest turnout race in Miami in years. And it still dwarfs what happened last night from 15 years ago or whatever. And Republicans won a landslide. That's when Obama was very unpopular. Guys, what happened in Miami last night, it wasn't that good. I'm not saying it was. But this idea that Republicans, they lost this very conservative and very Republican area, that's bullshit. That is complete horseshit. These Republicans we've been running for years, they're either just Democrats who become Democrat chairs later on, or they're principled conservatives, or whatever you want to call these people. It's just insane. Now let's keep going. Let's talk about what happened in, I don't know, Iowa. Iowa's 7th for the state house. Yes, it's one Democrat. Look at the turnout. 4,000 people voted. In 2024, let's go back to 2020, 15,000 people voted. 2024, 15,000 people voted. 2022, 10,000 people voted. So we're talking about like a 70-point drop-off in turnout in this Iowa special election. Georgia's 121st. This was a big surprise. Democrats, they flipped it. 11,000 people voted. Turnout in 24, 32,000. Notice a pattern? Turnout across the board sucked. You had more people vote for the Democrat last year than people that voted in this election. Gee, I wonder who these people are. And by the way, the guy who ran and won ran last year. So you're already had name recognition. Guys, why do we have to keep going over this over and over again? Yes, it's a problem. Republicans can't win these special elections. They just can't. But really? We're talking about 70, 85-point drop-offs in turnout across the board. And this is somehow proof that Democrats are going to win this year or next year? Really? The electorate is not going to be the same. It just, factually, it's not. Turnout's not going to be this piss poor. And that's the only way Democrats can win. They need piss poor turnout because they're the voters that vote in every election, no matter what. If their people vote, if Democrats vote and Republicans don't, what do you think's going to happen? Gee, Democrats win all these races. Yeah, no shit. And we'll just keep going. Florida, same thing. Florida's 11th. 82,000 people voted. Was an underperformance, but yet again, massive drop-off in turnout. The Democrat last year got more votes. Do I gotta keep going? All these races, they had shit turnout, historically bad across the board, and Republicans, with their new coalition, they underperformed. That's not just like, that's not a cope, that's just a fact. Republicans have problems. Yes, they have an issue with some of their voters refusing to vote, and there might be some crossover appeal. Sure, maybe. But 80 to 85% of the problem is turnout. It happened in New Jersey. New Jersey was like Harris plus 10, when last year it was Harris plus 5, and really close to Harris plus 12 when you look at the precincts. But either way, the point is, turnout sucked last night. It was awful across the board. You just cannot fairly compare last night to what's going to maybe happen next year. You just can't. And funny enough, not every result was a disaster for the Republicans. Funny how that works. No one's talked about this one. Albuquerque, Republicans outran expectations. They outran Trump by like 5 points or whatever. And take a guess the turnout drop off. Not as bad as, say, Miami or Iowa or Georgia. The one race that had, it had a drop off in turnout, but not as bad as these other races, of all places, was the one race Republicans outran expectations in. Against an incumbent, by the way. Yeah, so this whole idea of the Republicans, that they're going to lose next year because of what happened in Miami, it's absurd. And I have a perfect example why these special elections, these low turnout local races, they don't matter as much as some people claim. Ohio 6. Did everybody just forget about this? The same people that pushed this shit, by the way, they were saying the same crap back in 24. Oh, Republicans, they underperformed Trump by 25 in the seat. And this was like 3 months before election day, or like 4 months or whatever. Okay, so it's on the same year as the 2024 election, a couple months before, in the middle of June. So you would think, all right, if this was such a big swing against Republicans, surely they're going to get crushed in the seat or across the board next year, or I should say in 2024. That clearly did not happen. Trump not only won by a big margin, Republicans, they kept the House, they took back the Senate, and oh yeah, by the way, Rulli won by 33. A 20-point shift in just 4 months. Are you going to tell me with a straight face that these special elections really matter? Just look at the turnout. In the special election, what? 55,000 people voted? Or, excuse me, 60,000. Wow, that's a lot of people. In 2024, in the general, 360,000 people voted. Yeah, the Democrat himself doubled his vote share compared to what the total vote share was in the special. What does this tell you? It's as if special elections, they don't matter as much as some people claim they do. They just don't. I'm not saying it's good. Obviously, it's bad that Republicans can't win these races, but there's context. And this is proof that these specials, yeah, they're not good at all. Republicans have to get better on this front. But to say that we're going to see Democrats win next year by 20, is it possible? Sure. But right now, no, it's not going to happen. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.